What is this? Episode number 10?
That's what I was just going to say. That I was like, is this 10 at this point?
It's our 10th episode. Episode number 10. How to not sound like
That's exciting. That's exciting. Okay.
I know.
All right.
So happy episode 10.
Yeah. You know, one thing that I think is maybe overlooked is what are we listening to, right? Or what do our headphones are? What are our speakers? Is our room somewhat calibrated to our speakers?
Yeah.
Do we have a sub? Do we not have a sub? I think those things kind of get overshadowed over a lot of things.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm pictured. You can see I have foam panels behind me. I don't even know what they do. I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, like, no, I'm just kidding. To start this out with a story, I have to be honest. Like, I felt like I was never good at this when I started out. Like, I was like, I don't really know what I'm listening to, how to listen, what to listen for, that kind of thing. And it was really funny. This one of my albums. I'm going to leave this to all the Signs of Life fans out there who are wondering which album this is. So I won't name it out, but I gave it to my mastering engineer and he sent it back to me. And it wasn't until like 3 or 4 weeks after the album was released. And he goes, dude, the hi-hats, they were the loudest part of the album. Like they were the loudest thing. I was like, wait, what? I'm like, you didn't tell me this? Like, and he's like, well, I mean, it was what was I supposed to say? Like, your your hats are too period, but
that's my style, dude. I just
oh
like
my God. And now
every
time I listen to that record, I go, oh my God, listen to those. It's just like deafening. And I'm like, wow, I couldn't hear that back then. You know what I'm saying? So there's levels to this. And I think the more accustomed you get to, listening for certain things. So it's not just about the treatment of the room. What I'm trying to say is not about the speakers, but it's all about your listening perception. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I bet you now you're going to be conscious of those hi-hats for all your future stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah. Ever since that record, I've been like, no way, never again.
Yeah.
And so it's just making a conscious choice. Anyway, so we can get into the whole mixing aspect of it, the treatment of your room, the speakers, the microphones, whatever you want. We can start it off. So
it's funny because I had almost a similar experience to that with guitars. And it was like, okay, I had a lot of like heavy metal distorted guitars. And I always kept reading. And this is a thing that I want to like drill in people's heads is like numbers by themselves don't mean anything. They're kind of guidelines, right?
Right.
I'd read like, okay, if you have a heavy guitar, you need to push 2.5K. That's the bite. And I'm like, I like bite. I like aggressive guitar. So I'd push that like, I don't know, it's super, super high. I'm like, oh, I guess this is right. And then ever since then, it's painful to listen to those old mixes. It literally hurts my ears. So you can't turn it up that loud, right? You want to listen to loud music, a lot of us, right?
Sure.
And it hurts, dude. It was just oddly painful.
Yeah.
And then it kind of like, you go into this whole thing, right? So like in the first pair of headphones, I guess professional headphones, aside from the like skull candy crap, was 7506s, right? Or I guess technically the V6s before that, but that's a whole different conversation. So the 7506 is the Sonys that we all know about. I'm sure everyone has a pair, has seen a pair,
they say
right?
Studio monitor on the top of them.
And that's a very interesting point. They're for monitoring, not for mixing.
I had a pair of those.
Yeah, I think we all have a personal story, right? If you look up the curve on those headphones, there's a huge spike. What is it, like 2 or 4K, and then like 8K, it's even higher, and then at 10K, I think it's like 12 dB boost. It's insane.
Wow.
Like, if anybody's watching this, pause this video right now. Go look up the curve on the 7506 headphones and just contemplate your life choices at that point. Right?
Well, I mean, hey, but listen, in the day, like we thought those were good. Like I was like, wow, these are the greatest. Like when you put them on, they're loud. I was like, these are great, cool. And I didn't know any better. I was like, all right, cool. Like I got some headphones. Score. I think it was the price.
Yeah,
and
it was
also
like $100 or something.
Yeah, it was the first and everybody was recommending them. They were like, Sony probably made a bunch of money on those headphones.
Oh, I'm sure. And gold plated tips. Oh man,
right.
That was the bee's knees there. But it would hurt, man. Those things were so painful and like. They can sound good on certain things, but I think the thing to drill in the head is that they were originally for monitoring, right? If you're mixing or recording something on the field and you hear like some weird crackling at the top end of something, that's why the EQs push that high so you can notice things and then, okay, we need to get a more clean signal, right? It's not necessarily for mixing, which you can do it. A lot of people do mix on them if they really know them, but it's just when I would mix on those, after a long session, my ears would hurt and I'd get the ringing. I'm like, this is not good. If this is my job, I can't afford to have ear damage every single time.
Yeah, so, I still see those in the field. Like I still see people, just exactly the example you suggested was like they're hooking it up to like, like a Tascam or like something like that. You know what I'm saying?
They have a little mixer
field recording.
bag.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't go out in the field with these. Like, are you kidding me? Like, no, like,
Yeah, no way.
these are like bass boosted. And I mean, they have a lot of low, no. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, you want something that's portable, and those things folded up too. You know what I'm saying?
You can put it in your pocket and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I don't know. And then like after a while, I'd be like, okay, so my mixes were turning out so weird, not exactly how I'd hear them in my headphones, because that was a big problem getting those to translate to other things.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, oh, what's this? This is SonarWorks. This corrects my headphones. And I went to this whole thing where it's like, okay, so if I have the software that corrects the curve of my headphones, then I'm going to make better mixes. And I bought it. I used it. I'm like, oh, they have the 7506 models. They modeled a lot of different versions. Okay, cool. So you put this on your master chain in your DAW, and then your headphones sound completely different. So you're basically listening to a different pair of headphones, essentially. Like it corrects it. I'm like, oh, let me try to mix the track on this. And surprisingly, it sounded pretty good. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. But then later on, when I take the headphones to go somewhere else, like to maybe a different session or something like that, I'd put my headphones on. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell am I listening to? And I'd be so confused. I'm like, I don't even know what moves to make because I'm not used to my own headphones. It's like a crutch in a way. Did you ever use those at all?
I never did. Somebody recommended me that I get that. There was that software, I think it was called Arc, something like that. That I, it was a software program designed to treat your room for you or something like that. Like without, you know what I'm saying? Like all these gimmicks, I have to say this, publicly, is that all these gimmicks, yes, they can help, but there's nothing better than just your ears and your own perception of the sound that you're trying to listen to. You know what I'm saying?
In a pair that you like.
Right. But I mean, no one's going to go try to mix, in a large church hall or something like that. They're not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be usually in their room, in a room just like this. You know what I'm saying? And yes, reflections do happen. Like there's a spot in my house where if I clap really loudly, oh my God, you can hear all the clap going off every single wall. Like I wouldn't try to make music in there.
Yeah. That's why we all sound good in the shower, right?
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. So, having common sense and then, having some basic gear, I think is all you need. And after that, it's your ears and like I said in the beginning of this podcast, it's the perception of sound and level. That's what really makes the difference in your sound. And, this is a skill that I believe can be trained, and you can acquire the skill over time, because I used to not know what I was listening for. I used to try to mix tracks or try to master tracks and not really quite understand what the whole thing was. And for me, that was my own personal journey. It was going through several different sets of monitors and headphones. And then ultimately it was me, this is sort of an aside, I found the pink noise mixing trick,
Interesting. Like, I've read about that. Never really have used that one before, but did you get good results from that?
It's 12 dB boosted noise. So basically white noise is just flat, but pink noise has a slope to it, which means that the low end is higher than the high end, or, the low end's higher than the high end. By 12 dB per octave. So every octave that you get higher, it gets 12 dB lower, right? And that's naturally the way, as I understand it, that's naturally the way we hear things.
Yeah.
And so you place this on your track, and then you match all the levels of each track that you have in your song to that pink noise. You try to get it as close to the level of the pink noise as possible.
So it's more so balanced in that sense.
Yeah, it's more balanced. So the basses are up here, and then the mids are right here, and they don't go, because most of the time when I see problems in people's mixes, like their pads or something in the mid range, something between like 300 and 1K is like way too high. You know what I'm saying? And that's not following the pink noise ratio, because pink noise ratio will gently just slide everything towards the end. Once I did that, right, and I put everything through the pink noise, it sounds like crap. I mean, you're listening to I remember I was in this studio right here, and it was 4.5 years ago. I was doing it for the first time. I put it in my track, and it was hot, it was sweaty, it was like 100 degrees out. And I'm I'm listening to this. You just listen, and you're just trying to match the level of your track to that pink noise. Once I took the pink noise off, took my whole mixing out of mono and put it back in stereo, I was like, what? Like it blew me away. I was like, oh my God, what was I doing the whole time? You know what I'm saying? Like
just one hack can change your life. Mixers hate this.
Yeah, I'm serious. It actually works. So go look it up if you really want to, improve your mixes. If you feel like you can't mix the proper way, try pink noise, and it might actually, help your perception of it. There's a video on YouTube called "How to Mix a Track in 30 Seconds." It's by EDM Tips.
And that's a good channel. I like that channel. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I learned. It was just how to mix a track in 30 seconds.
And that's a cool thing I think about like the newer methods and technology, right? Is that before it's always like, you have to do this. It has to be these speakers. It has to be your crappy NS10 speakers. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. I hate those speakers. But but yeah, it's like, we're going to get to this, like, it has to be exactly this. If it's not this, you were wrong. And like, there's this whole mentality back when of like, this is how we engineer, this is how we make music. But it's cool to see how like there's tricks like this, like pink noise. Maybe that works for some people, maybe it doesn't, but it's cool to see that people are trying different things, and sometimes some cool results can come from that. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, here's the silver lining. I said it 4.5 years ago, I first tried the pink noise trick. Now in 2024, I don't have to use the pink noise anymore because I now know, I've recognized what I'm supposed to be listening for. So I've trained my ears to be like, oh, that's too loud, or that pad sound is way too peaky in the mid range. I'm going to pull that down. Right. So my last record that's coming out next week, there's no pink noise applied. It was just me going in it, like just straight up, just honestly saying, okay, where are the levels? What do I need to be at? And where's my target? And that's it.
And you learn the style that you're trying to do, like for your certain style, like there's kind of a guideline of how loud things should be. I don't know if you've ever mixed any type of Latin music, but the percussion is way louder than you would think to normally place it, right? Where it's like, okay, the percussion should be, this sounds kind of right. You look back and then someone's gonna be like, no, you need to push it a little bit more, like at least 3 or 4 dBs, right? And then you're like, oh, okay. And it's like super blaring in the mix, but that's just that style, you know?
That's something that we don't talk about very often, is it's very genre dependent, right?
Yeah.
Like the style of mixing that you're doing is very genre dependent. Now, I guess that could go back to gear and say, okay, well, you want to get maybe these monitors for this type of music or whatever. I started out with these really big, clunky Alesis monitors.
Ooh, yes. Tell us about those. What were they?
I can't even remember what they were, dude. They were nice Alesis monitors for the day. They were like $209 each. And
How big were the cones? Was it like 5?
I think they were 8s, but they were heavy as hell.
8s?
They were powered. I always believed that
powered
powered monitors was the way to go. So I bought powered monitors, and I was
that's right. I remember powered monitors.
Powered monitors. And I don't think I was doing very well with those. Because it was obviously my inexperience and stuff. They made music sound good. Like when I just played like iTunes through it, like I was like, yeah, this is rad. Like they were great.
I'm a professional now. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Fuck yeah.
I mean, and they made my music sound good, especially when I was playing it through iTunes or whatever.
That's a scary thing though. If it's like, they sound too good, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know?
And then I was reading a thread on KVR in late 2012, early 2013. They're like, you know, it was like what to do as a budget producer. And there was somebody said, if you want monitors, there's this new company called Equator that's selling, you know, a pair of 5-inch whatever monitors like for $300. I was like, oh
5-inch,
shit.
okay.
$300, 5-inch, boom, I'm sold, right? So I bought these Equator monitors and I was like, these are great. Like they were huge. They were actually a step up from the Alesis because they were more high quality.
Yeah.
And I used those for several years. But the problem is they developed like a hissing and a noise.
Ooh, yeah.
Like an electronic interference, kind of the sound where you like, if you take your phone and you're like start downloading something, and you put it up to your speaker and it does that weird.
Yeah. Like there's like
holy crap.
Yeah.
And so I was chasing the dragon for years, trying to figure out what was wrong with.
You probably looked online. Oh, it might be a ground loop. Did you put a ground lift on it?
Oh my God, that's exactly what I did. I was like, do I have a ground loop on my studio? Do I have a ground loop on my pedal board? I thought it was the pedal board. I
maybe you have dirty power. I'm like, don't talk about my dirty power.
Dude, I went to the ultimate level. I got a power conditioner in here. I seriously did. I was telling my friends, I was on Twitch at the time. People were sent me power conditioners. I got, you know, the whatever you call it, the power breaker.
Did you get one of those Panamax ones?
Oh no, it's a straight up power conditioner. It goes right into the wall, and then I have my
now you
power
have clean
strips
power
plugged into it. Clean power. Okay, so that wasn't it. It turns out I had a bad monitor. You know what I'm saying? Like all that time spent. The cables was the other thing. You know, you chase the dragon on the cables, like, are my cables
aren't
bad?
shielded enough.
Oh, exactly. So I went to the whole level of that. It turns out I had shitty monitors, and I didn't replace them until last year. And
damn, what did you get now?
Okay, so now I have the Cali Audio in 8 V2s.
I've never heard those.
My guy at Zounds recommended them to me, and he's like, dude, trust me. This is like, they're not that expensive. They're not like, you know, like focal audio or you know what I'm saying? Like expensive, but they're good. And this goes all the way to the professional level. These guys swear by these monitors, even though they're like, what, $399 or something. And I was like, okay, like send them out. I'm going to give them a try. As soon as I plugged them in, number one, they were dead quiet. I was like, oh, the sound is gone. Like I don't have it's not my pedal board. It's not my keyboard. It's not my power.
Yeah.
It was the damn monitors. Right. So it was dead quiet. And as soon as I turned on anything, as soon as I just hit my first note of the synth, a sawtooth on a soft synth like Serum, I was like,
yeah, it's a revelation.
It was a revelation. I was like, oh my God, like that's what I've been missing. You know what I'm saying? So all my soft synths sounded better. All my music sounded better. And I started mixing with more perception. I mean, they're called innate V2s, right? So like the perception of it was like immaculate. I was like, wow, I can really hear things now.
You got to notch out 8.2K
and this
bit, right?
was 11 years into my music career. Like, oh my God, like now I can finally hear something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's kind of cool that you did that experience though, because like you waited for a long time to finally get something of quality, right? Because imagine if you started off something like super nice in the very beginning, you wouldn't really know how to appreciate it. That's why like our first cars should be pieces of crap, right?
Oh, they were. I drove a Bronco, dude.
That's what I'm saying. So like once you get something really nice, you can appreciate it.
It was a good car, but I mean, it was big. It was huge. And my mom was like, you got to be safe in the car. And I was like, okay. And then,
it's like your first guitar should be like $100 like imitation of a Strat at Guitar Center.
I think I've mentioned this on this podcast. You on Reddit and people were like, sizing up, $8,000 modular rigs for their first modular synth.
God,
you know what I'm saying?
So you have to,
is this one good? And it's like $8,000. And I'm like, do you have any idea what you're getting into? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you have to start with the shitty stuff. Like if your guitar's action's too high in the beginning and it's hard to play, good. It should be. Train your fingers. And then once you get something nice, then you're like,
we sound like boomers, man. Get off my lawn. You should get cheap stuff. No, seriously. Get what you can afford. But at the same time, experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? And the more you get into this, the higher you get in your own, skill level, you're going to realize that it's really just about simple stuff. Like the solutions are simple. And, if you feel like, oh, I can't hear, I'm not mixing good, well, then maybe the problem is maybe how you're perceiving your mix, how you're listening to it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not just the environment, not just the headphones. Maybe it's just how you're approaching it. You know what I mean? Because I've often said this on this show before, is that all I use is a utility, I use a EQ and a compressor. That's it. And utility is just gain. It's just gain. And you know what I'm saying? That's all I use. I just use those 3 plugins on every single mix, and that's it.
Less is more in that case.
I don't
really
try to put any saturators. I don't try to put any like weird.
So you're telling me you don't have like a multi-band saturator that you'd saturate only like from 2K to 2.3K?
No,
Oh, wow,
I don't do this. I'm sorry. And I've found that like less is more.
It really is.
It less
EQ,
is more.
Good compressor.
Yeah. And if you can start to understand that and really embody that. And I use a good, keep in mind, I use a really good EQ. I use a really good compressor. I use the Fab Filter stuff. It's really changed my whole like idea of EQing and compression because they're so good. You know what I'm saying? Like there's such good pieces of software. It's like, okay, those are great. And if you don't have those, that's fine. You can just use whatever you have, right? But just having just a couple things on every single track, and just tuning every track and then balancing the whole mix. That's my process. It's nothing more than that. So now that I have the good monitor set up and I've got, decent headphones, these are the DT770 250 ohms that are driven by my Focusrite. Like nice. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like these are, like, I feel like, okay, cool. I'm hearing what I'm creating, and that's a good thing. And yeah, that's how I've actually gotten good sound. So I think in my next record, there's going to be no piercing hi-hats. No way.
There's no way. Not. And that's important too, because like we spend so much time thinking about what synth should we get, what certain plugins, or like what our sample rate is. Maybe that's something for a different episode. But we really need to realize, what are we listening on? How are we listening to things? If you have speakers and you spend a lot of money on them and you really like them and they're really high quality, you set them up and you're like kind of sometimes disappointed. Sometimes a lot of that process is your room might suck, right? If you're like, imagine putting your speakers in a bathroom, and they could be the nicest speakers, but if your room isn't really treated, if it's not kind of thought out with what you're going to be doing in there, the results aren't going to be exactly what you expected, which I think a lot of us suffer from, right? We've always been in the situation, okay, maybe I'm in an apartment, maybe I can't turn my monitors very loud because the neighbors might hear, something like that, right? So we get headphones, which is an interesting concept, because way back when it was like, okay, we're going to mix on these big speakers in these studios or something like that, and then we check stuff on headphones. And I've noticed now with newer generations, since, we're living in smaller areas and people are like closer together, so we can't really bother people as much, we mix on headphones and then we check on speakers a lot of the times. Like that's an interesting way how that kind of like switch, which now headphones are way better than they used to be.
Yeah.
Right.
These are the best headphones I've ever used, and they're not that expensive. and I felt
And you
like
probably got used to them, I'm sure.
I got used to them. I got used to them, and like I've mixed music on these headphones, and they've been great. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not ashamed to say that. And you know, if you do live in an apartment, if you do live in a place where you can't turn up speakers that loud, that's not a problem. Just get some headphones and then go out to your car and turn up your car speakers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's
absolutely, yeah. The car
right?
test, yeah.
The car
now
test
you don't have to burn CDs and put them in your car anymore.
The car test is a great test still. Like it still is a great, you know, like indicator, because the car actually is tuned. Like the same way we used to tune our boom boxes back in the day. That's what your car is doing.
Boxes. Hold them over your heads, right?
No, hold over your shoulder, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Totally shoulder. Yeah, I never did the head thing.
I'm totally dating myself, but we used to have breakdance competitions on my street. Like,
oh, that's cool.
You know what I'm saying? Like where we would bring, like somebody would bring a boombox down and a flat piece of cardboard. And
was it like a stoop outside? Like stairs?
No, it was like the corner, like down on the corner, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like we're getting the break beat, you know, and that wasn't like a contest, but it was more like just like a jam, and everybody would like, you know, break dance and stuff.
What did you listen to? What was...
I don't know, dude, I was too young, but at the same time, it was early 80s, and it was just like, you know what I'm saying? Like thumping, just whatever. Like,
you got to live the good times, dude.
Dude, it was a good time, bro.
Jesus Christ.
And so anyway, those boom boxes were tuned, and just like your car speakers, they were, you know, the smiley cue, all that.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah, dude.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's the same thing. You're getting into the same stuff there. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay, because at least the car speaker is going to show you like, okay, if something's really sticking out or something just stops where it's not supposed to stop. Sometimes I'll hear things in my car that I never heard in the studio. And it's really
your
weird.
mind's kind of like
because monitors are designed to be flat. They are designed, they're not designed to be like, you know, like beautiful, whatever. They're flat.
XXL, you know? Bass boost. Yeah.
No,
right.
They're flat. They're designed to give you exactly what you're listening to. But at the same time, sometimes you don't hear those things. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. True. So highly recommended if you don't have, you know, the right room set up, just get some of these, or get some good headphones, or you know what I'm saying? Like, and
do those tests, because 9 times out of 10, people are going to be listening to what your music in the car, maybe on their Apple EarPods, maybe on their Bluetooth speakers in their kitchen or something like that. Like people aren't going to get you a record and sit down into like a nice, perfectly treated room with $1,000 speakers and be like, let me listen to Chris's new album. Like, oh, your 10K's a little harsh. Your hi-hats like that it's not going to happen.
No. And I think that's, you know, the consumer, I mean, everybody has their own individual way that they consume music, right? Yeah. Whether it's they have those expensive headphones and they want to like get all super audiophile and tweaky. And that's one of the things that I love about Bandcamp. This is totally an aside, but Bandcamp lets you download all the way up to like FLAC, you know, level, like 32 point. Oh,
that's cool.
Loading point, you know, every download. So if you release something on Bandcamp, you're automatically saying that anyone who's a super hardcore audiophile can download your record in the highest possible quality that you can deliver it, which is really nice. I don't know of many other services that do that. Now, certainly iTunes doesn't do that. Spotify doesn't do, like none of these download services do.
What are those Spotify? Are they like 128 MP3s? No, I think they're like 320 or something, right? I don't
and even, you know, even our digital distributor doesn't let us upload 24-bit downloads. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
So all the music you're hearing on iTunes and all the music you're hearing on Spotify is 16-bit.
Wow, was that 65,536 quantization points, I believe?
Thank you, Mr. Math Wizard.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, dude, yeah. Okay. So
maybe that's a different episode. People are like, oh, no, math, I'm out.
I don't know. Maybe that is this episode. So anyway, so all of our masters on our labels on Bandcamp are 24-bit, cut straight from the master source.
Hell yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you should never pay more for that. You know, that's what it is. We make it in 24 bits, so why should you pay more for it? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, so that's we love Bandcamp, even though it was bought and sold a couple times. It's you know what I'm saying? It's still a great place to release music. So if you're thinking, even if you're an indie artist and you put something on Bandcamp, like somebody who's a hardcore, if you make it the best you can possibly make it, somebody can download that in FLAC file and get the absolutely lossless audio. You know what I'm saying? If they're really onto that. So that's like up to them. but it's your job to make the best possible music you can make.
Because that's how you're mixing it for people to listen to it, not like down converting it. I mean, MP3s can sound okay, but at the same time, like there's a lot of weird trickery that they go. If there's like frequency masking, right? If there's a couple frequencies that are kind of close to each other, they will actually remove those. So there's less data in there, and it also like kind of tricks the ear to thinking that there's something, I guess, not there. It's very weird, the algorithm, what MP3s do.
I know.
But like it's yeah.
I'm not a purist. I mean, if I'm downloading something from Bandcamp, I'll download the 320 MP3 for space reasons. Just because like I don't want to like deal with everyone's album being a gigabyte on my system. Like no, like I'm sorry, like you know what I'm saying. I love your music, but like I'm not like that. You know, like we don't have unlimited hard drive space over here.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. Like one of the first, I think it was like a 90. Was it 90? No, 190. I can't remember the numbers of it. It was like 96 or 90. I forget what it is. The lowest quality MP3, dude. Mm-hmm. I downloaded a song, and dude, the hi-hats and the cymbals and the top end was so bad. It was like a phaser on it. I was like, what the hell? Am I getting like pranked right here? But I was like, oh no, it's just really low quality.
Yeah. So going back to the whole topic of hardware, how to sound better. So first of all, fix things in the mix, right? Fix things. If you have a good if you got your monitoring setup, start with the mix.
Yes, absolutely.
Start with the mix and try to really get good at that part of it, right? Because it's all about the level. It's what mixing is just the art of leveling, right? And after that, you can start to say, all right, well, if you get good at mixing, then you can say, well, how can I maybe improve this process? And that could be with a better pair of headphones. It could be better speakers, you know, like maybe, you know, and try it on different formats. I have a great set of AirPod Pros that I use to test my mixes onto. Like I'll test them on the car, the AirPod Pros, my speakers, just to make sure that everything is straight. You know what I'm saying? I've also said this on the podcast before, is that I firmly believe that someone who's mixing the track should probably not master it, because
there's a lot to be said on that.
You're gonna be caught in a loop. You're gonna be caught in an endless loop of like mixing, mastering, you know, that kind of thing. So because even if you send it off to someplace, they might have a different environment and they might be able to hear things that you couldn't hear.
Yeah, and they might have some interesting gear that you don't have access to.
Exactly. Whether it's, I used to think that it was all like tricks with hardware and stuff. It's really not. Not anymore. Now we have the software available. We have the tools. We have the technology. You can do it in your bedroom.
So many things are so good now that the experience is really what you're paying for.
Yeah. Pretty much.
You know, because you could have like two guys using Ozone and like one guy's been around forever and is really good. He's gonna crank out a good master for you.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
There could be the guy that's kind of knows the stuff. He's like, oh, analog this, you know, these converters. I'm like, that's cool. But like I said, at the end of the day, they're going to be on your ear pods in your kitchen or on your Bluetooth speaker, and someone's going to be cooking. Like, so what did you say, Bobby? Bring me the tomato sauce. And they hear like your song in the background, and like the time you spent hours doing this weird little spot in the song, like they won't care. So just be okay with that, right?
Right. Yeah. So John, what do you do to treat your room? What kind of speakers do you have? Like, what is your setup down in Los Angeles?
So I have a very similar story like you do. So one of the first professional ones I had were these Mackie MR5s. They don't make them anymore. They're these like, I think they're like 5 inches. They might be 4. I think they're just trying to up their girth a little bit there. And I got them and I put them on. I didn't have speaker stands. I was very poor at the time. I was like, I need to get a good environment. So I had books, which, okay, that's fine. I always had books around. So I put my speakers on books. I plugged them into my interface, and then turned them on, listen to some music. I'm like, holy shit, this is it. My music sounded good. I'm like, okay, I need to mix something. And I mixed something and it sounds so bad. I put it in my car. I'm like, this is awful. I cannot show anybody this. And like, I pulled it off SoundCloud. I'm like, I can't put it up there like that. So I guess long story short, I'm like, these kind of sucked. They're cool to listen to stuff on, right? If you had any other music, they're cool speakers. They sounded cool. And then I think after that, I spent some years with those because, I was like, I need to, and this is a problem that I think people should understand. So I bought those speakers because they were cheap and I had the money kind of at the time. I did buy one and then wait like a week later and bought the other one. But aside from that,
you can't just buy one. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
I had one for like a week and a half or something like that. Dude, it was awful. I kept looking at him like, oh, where's your brother? But yeah, so like I had these speakers and they came in. I bought them because they were cheap. And I learned my lesson the hard way. If you buy cheap, you're going to buy twice, right? Because I bought them, I put the money in. I'm like, I need something better than this now. So now I'm in the hole for the money that I bought these speakers on. And then I come to find out about Atom Audio, and I'm like, ooh, I like these. And I got to listen to the pair. The first pair I listened to was the A7s, the first one with the one single bass port in the front.
Yeah.
And those sounded pretty good. And then they came out with the A7Xs, which are unfortunately now discontinued. So I bought those like 10 or 11 years ago, and they're still good. There's no hiss. They're great. And some of the selling points of them for me was ear fatigue, right? They're tweeters, or ribbon kind of tweeters, the XR. It's a whole timeline if you want to read into those. But
interesting.
Long story short, you could listen to these things for hours and hours, and your ears don't get tired. And that was a big thing for me, because if you're doing any kind of like editing, or maybe you're doing dialogue or music, whatever it is, for a long amount of time, they don't tire your ears down. And they sound really cool. So I was like, okay, I like these speakers. I hadn't changed them then. I was like, I'm good. I'm sold on my Atoms. And then come to find out, they have headphones, which are these guys, the SP5s, which are ungodly expensive. And there's good sides and bad sides. The good side, they sound good. The ear fatigue is low. Sounds great. But they're not very comfortable. And that was one thing that was kind of like, maybe that's a sacrifice, maybe. But then at the same time, I'm like, I'm wearing these for a long time. I need something comfortable. And I'm like, I'm never changing. I am Atom fanboy until the day I die. And then I found Austrian Audio X65s. Put those on, and there were open backs. It was like, open backs. I don't know about them things. I like my closed back ears. You know, if I'm listening to something that nobody else should listen to, everyone's going to hear it. And that's weird, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Austrian Audio sounded amazing, and they're so comfortable. And there's something to be said about open backs, because you have a pair of those too, I believe. Right?
I don't. I've never owned open backs, simply because I'm usually always like recording videos or recording something with a microphone while I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only reason, because it's going to bleed out the back, and I'll have doubling, and it's just They are nice for mixing, though. Oddly enough, like it feels like you have headphones on that aren't on at the same time. It's really bizarre. Oh yeah, if I bought another pair of headphones, my next pair of headphones, if I keep these, like, I mean, not that if these stick around, I'm gonna get a pair of open backs for mixing.
Oh yeah, those will never go away for sure. Like those are so many people like those ones.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, just have an open back around, so you can, even if you are in an apartment, like the open backs isn't gonna make that much noise.
No,
your neighbors won't be able to hear that through walls. Like it's just
but if you're on the couch and like someone else is watching Netflix with you, they're gonna be like, what are you listening to? You're like, don't talk about that. We don't talk about what John's listening to right now.
We don't talk about the blips and bloops, man. Watch your show.
What's happening? Are you watching Stranger Things? Oh, okay. What's happening? But that's, I guess, the concept, right? And then you have to have something that you like. Right.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. So you landed on, you're still with Atom Audio speakers or what?
Oh, yeah. Still to this day. Yeah. They have not failed me. They're freaking amazing. And one design thing that I don't know why more speaker manufacturers don't do this. The on-off switch for the speakers is right on the front. So like you don't have to do that awkward, oh, where's the power button? Oh, wait, no, that's the other one. There's a power button. You click it on the back. Like a power button on the back of a speaker is such bad design in my head. Because like, think of any studio that you've ever been in. What's behind the speakers? What friggin' cables? Like you don't want to go back there. There might be like sensitive patching back there, and if you hit your foot on something, it might break a cable, might break some piece of gear. Like, why on earth are there power switches on the back of monitors? That's why
I never turn my monitors off. I just put my
there you go. People are just like, well, you know, screw it. I'm not even going back.
I just put my computer to sleep and walk away. Yeah. I'm just like, okay, bye.
Yeah, and there is actually something to be said about those, because like the more you turn them on and off and on and off, the more damage that they're actually going to get over time, rather than leaving them on. Like most studios don't turn them off; they'll just leave them on. And now some speakers will automatically turn off if they don't receive a signal for like 30 minutes or something like that, which is kind of cool. But
smart speakers. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think they're, what are they called? They're from Sennheiser. I forget the actual model of them. I don't even remember. But yeah, they sound amazing. Yeah, the speakers turn off after a little while once they don't receive them, or technically Neumann.
So Atom Audio is still in business.
Oh, yeah.
But they're just not doing the A7Xs anymore.
No, they replaced them with, I think it's the A7 something else. It's the same like type of speaker, but there's more like onboard DSP stuff on there, which I guess is helpful. But I don't know. There's something about them that they sound great. The cones are carbon fiber. They sell it as 7 inches, but it's actually technically, I think, 6.5. But you know, we all make it a little bit bigger than it really is.
You're killing it today. So do you have any pads around your room? Like
so I used to, because I'd switched rooms so many different times. And one thing that I've learned that really does kind of help is like, think about your room, right? Is it a square? Is it a rectangle? And if it's a rectangle, this is something to really keep in mind. If this is a rectangle, you want to set your speakers so that like the way you're listening or you're sitting is that it's the long way, right? So does that make sense? Like you don't want to do like the short way, like facing the wall, because you're going to sit in a bass pocket. And I remember there was a track I was working on. I'm like, is the bass muted? Is the kick muted? What the hell is going on here? So I'd like crank it. I'm like, okay, I guess that's where it is. But the faders were super high. I'm like, this seems weird. And then I get up and I'm like, the bass just is intense. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I'm like, I need to investigate. So I got a signal generator and I'd go slowly between like 40 and maybe like 80 hertz. And then I just walk around my room and there's like little pockets that like the bass would amplify or it would cancel out, right? Because then when a wave goes up and the other one goes down, it's going to cancel. And that's exactly where I was sitting.
Wow.
So yeah, once you turn your chair so you're sitting long ways and then your speaker's a little bit in front or a little bit away from the wall, you're giving the waveform a little bit more time to go away and then hit the wall and come back to you.
Wow. That's so fascinating. That's another reason why, playing with sound is the like invisible Jedi art form. Because you can't see it. You can only hear it. Sometimes you can't even hear it. Like you can only feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, try it out. Like put a signal generator on like 60 hertz and then go into the corner of your room. And you're gonna be like, what the hell, right? Try it out. Turn it on. Put your signal generator on, and go to the corner. And
this room I'm in has 6 sides to it. I'm in a 6-sided room.
Hey, that's better though, honestly, than 4 because it has more chances to bounce off and diffuse. Yeah,
it's the most interesting room shape I've ever made music in. But it has 6 sides to it, and it's like the sound just kind of goes. That the panels do help though. Like Rusty from Sony FM gave me these panels, and I have like 7 of them around the room, and they really do help. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
especially if like your wall is very flat, it can kind of help diffuse some of those like higher frequencies, right?
So as soon as I put these up and I just started doing the clap test, like the claps, there was no more reflection. It was like quiet. Yeah. Especially at ear level. And now that I'm standing, I'm actually at a better advantage because I'm no longer sitting. So it's like below the panels. Now I'm like at the panels level, and it really does help. Having panels, that's good that you said panels behind your. A lot of people don't know this. Is having panels behind your speakers helps as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sound is back there too.
Sound is back there too. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Those panels are expensive. You know what I'm saying? Like new sound styrofoam is really expensive. If you can,
you can make them yourself so cheap. I know, so a lot of the guys I've worked with, you can go to Home Depot, get a couple 2x4s, and then get some of that like stretchy saran stuff, and then you can insulate it with different kinds of materials for like bass traps, and then cut the 2x4s into the size that you want. Nail those together, stuff it up. There's some people that use this thing called Roxol, I think it was called. But you get different type of insulation materials, put that in there, and then put this stretchy spandexy material over it, tack it on with some staples. Like you don't need to go on Amazon and buy this super expensive stuff, right? You could do a lot of stuff yourself.
Yeah. John Audio with the DIY tips. That's nice.
Hey, dude, save some money. Put that money into your gear rather than like,
Yeah, no kidding. Okay. So
but you want to set it up right. And there's like stuff with mirrors too. I don't know if you ever heard the mirror trick, right?
No.
Oh yeah. Like you kind of need an assistant, right? And they kind of walk around with the mirror. And once you see your speaker, maybe I can link some information about that below. But yeah, there's lots of different tricks about that.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then the construction of rooms. I know this is like super like way professional studio stuff, but like if you ever look at some of those rooms, like some of those were built in like the concept of building a studio was in mind for this room. So like the walls aren't 90 degrees, they're slanted. Right. So the sound bounces. And then there's a room, and then there's another room inside that room, right? Because technically speaking, when someone's like, did you soundproof it? Like you can't soundproof sound. The only thing that would really do that is like concrete. Right. You can treat it, but you can't proof it, right? Like you can put all these panels up and then turn up the bass and step outside, you're still going to hear it. Right. So that's where there's like a room within a room and slanted walls and concrete and stuff like that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow.
You get some depth, man.
Yeah. Is there any other suggestions you have for anybody who's listening to the podcast? Like just to sound better, like, cause that's what they're looking for. They're looking to like improve their overall sound outside of their gear. We're talking about listening perception and just like listening devices.
I think so. I think there's a thing that people might overlook, right? If we're a lover of music, then subconsciously we know what sounds good because a lot of the songs that we listen to either growing up or songs that we like that are mixed by professional engineers that are professional musicians that perform the song, we've listened to these songs. So we know in a sense, a certain sonic roadmap of what things should sound like.
Totally.
So kind of remember that. And then the headphones that you pick, whether they're like they should actually at least be at some echelon of quality, right? You don't want to be like, okay, I'm going to get some skull candies or something like that at Best Buy for like $30. Like, no, don't do that.
Or some Beats.
At least get something of quality, get something that's actually going to last a long time,
right?
Because you want to learn how these headphones sound. Listen to all that music that you liked growing up on those headphones. Kind of just get a vibe of what those headphones sound like for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you kind of know what they sound like, then you can start kind of mixing things accordingly, right? Because you're going to know what sticks out, what doesn't, right? Because you need the roadmap to where you're going before you start your journey. If you're like, I need to go here, do you turn on Google Maps? Maybe. Do you know how to get there? Maybe. Those are both viable options. But if you're saying, I need to go to this place, but you have no way to get there, how do you expect to get there if you don't know where you're going?
That's very true.
You know what I mean?
Wise words.
It's like a kick drum. If you have a shitty kick drum that comes in, you might know what you want your kick drum to sound like. Then you have to use your tools to carve out what you do want, right?
Right.
You don't want to sit there and keep twisting knobs and this, adjust the bandwidth, adjust the Q. I don't know. Maybe like you need a clear vision of what you want that sound to sound like. Then you can kind of chip away. This one needs more low end. This one needs less low end. This one needs more top end click to it because there's not enough. Or this one has way too much click, so bring it down. You're molding it, right?
Yeah. So at what point does someone change their listening apparatuses? What point do they say to themselves, all right, maybe it's time for me to get new monitors, or maybe it's time for me to get more headphones? Is it like after they get bad mixes, or they feel like they're not making progress, or they're not getting the sound that they want?
That's a good question. I would say like you have to suffer through some bad mixes, because even switching through the Austrian audio ones, I had a couple bad mixes because I didn't know the headphones yet. Right. So you kind of have to like do some mixes, kind of figure out, okay, what are the differences of these headphones or speakers, and then correct for those and kind of remember what they sound like, right? Because anytime you get a new pair of speakers, new headphones, maybe you plug in a sub, there's going to be a transitionary period, right? Yeah, I did it.
For sure.
There's going to be that period, right, where you transition from like, I know what I have right now, and then I know where I have like with speakers or subs, or you change your room, right? Then you're going to have to work through that. You can't be like, oh, my mixes suck, I need to get something else. And you're looking on like Sweetwater. I'm like, oh, maybe these speakers will solve my problems.
Right.
They might, but they probably won't.
For sure. Yeah. So I guess that's all really good advice, like to people who are out there who are like, I really want to sound better. Number one, it comes from the source. You got to start with good sound sources. It's obviously.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? Using the right gear. That's not what this episode is about. This episode is about what happens after you make the sound, and then how you're listening to it, how you're perceiving that sound. Even like, we all know this, but like, was it Skrillex or Avicii or somebody like that mix one of their Grammy winning albums on like crappy speakers? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it was not toy speakers, but like a really bad setup. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That was like,
he probably knew those speakers inside and out though, and how shitty they were. So like, that just goes to show like you can do good mixes with some shitty headphones or gear, but you really have to know what they sound like and really know how to compensate.
Yeah. It was some, I don't know who it was, but it was some famous electronic music producer who won a Grammy mixing on the worst possible setup. And just because the music was good and he felt like that was the best he had, that was what he released. And that's how it came out. You know
like
what
we
I'm saying?
said on a previous podcast, right? Like some of the older songs, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, 70s or 80s. Yeah. The mixes are awful, but the songs are so good that they outshine the limitations of the gear and recording at the time. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So if you have the best possible gear now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make the best possible music.
Yeah, dude. Like, anytime you hear like the Immigrant song come on, like then, like you're like, oh, hell yeah.
That's a great example.
Right?
That's a great example. That song.
The mix isn't that great, but it's such a cool song.
That song rocks.
The Isons,
Oh my God. Yeah. We don't want to get copyrighted from your awesome singing, but I mean, that's like, honestly,
it's happened before.
Yeah, right. I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. So focus on your process, whether that's just getting a good sound source, doing the mix, and then you'll figure out, okay, maybe I need to, maybe even moving your gear into another room and trying it that way. That's the cheapest way to do it, is like just packing up your gear and moving to a different place in the house and seeing what happens. You know what I'm saying?
You brought up a very interesting point earlier, how you're like, it happens on the source, right? Like source material makes a big difference. And yes, like I know a lot of the times, especially like in like the beginning of your journey of you're getting into music, you're getting into mixing and producing and all that, we almost look up to certain mixers because like you listen to their mixes and you're like, this is amazing. for me, one of mine was Chris Lord-Alge, CLA, right? You know, he has a lot of plugins and stuff. Really cool guy. I'd binge watch his videos and stuff. And I was a big fan of the guy. And this is like during my early stuff, and he's a great mixer. And I have a funny story about him, but he inspired me to make music better, to like really think about the gear that I'm using and maybe like use his plugins, which probably some marketing in there too. But come to find out, a lot of the stuff that gets delivered to professional mixers is recorded very well. There's really good recording engineers and good musicians and good gear that they go to record this, right? So all the stuff that gets delivered to these mix houses for these mixers to mix, 9 times out of 10, if it's recorded in a really good studio, it's going to be good quality audio. And then you get an assistant in there that puts the faders up, you know, patches all the things. So once the mixer comes in, he can only focus on the mixing itself. He doesn't have to worry about, oh, there's a buzz in this guitar, you know. And this is like somewhat broad, right? It's not every case, but so fast forward, after I started learning about this, I actually met the dude, and I was like, Chris Lord-Alge. I'm like, wow, this is amazing to meet you. And I said the stupidest thing to him. I'm like, I used to be a big fan of you. And he's like, used to be? I'm like, oh man, that came off so wrong. I'm like, I didn't mean it like that. I'm like, I just there's a certain time where I really looked up to you. Not that I don't anymore, but yeah, he was a really nice guy, but it was a really awkward day. I have a picture that I should maybe post somewhere, but yeah.
Well, when you reach a certain level of fame, I guess, or notoriety, like people are going to walk up to you and say dumb stuff. They're going to say, you know what I'm saying?
That was me.
Like,
so stupid, dude. I should not have said that. So embarrassing.
I'm
like,
sure he
idol.
forgave you. Like, no big deal. Like, it is what it is.
So embarrassing. He's a very, very nice guy, though. Not at all how like his videos portray him to be. Really cool dude.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all this is good advice. I mean, you know, like just use what you got, but at the same time, there are strategies that you can take to, you know, improve not only your level of sound, your level of perception, but maybe, you know, the environment that you're working in, and maybe it's the gear, you know, incremental improvements, but nothing beats experience. Nothing beats that test of time to really figure out what your process is and what you're doing. And then, you know, you'll start to master that process and that sound, and your sound it'll just be like this. It'll just keep going up. You just keep on rising until you finally reach the goal that you're looking for. So.
And there's always like a lane to kind of stay in, right? There's like some fringes where they'll go and like, these cables must be made in a certain way. They have to be gold plated with like new titanium stuff that you can only find on the moon that'll give you like great audio quality. It's like not really, like, just have a good cable.
Yeah, that's it.
Don't like, you know, it's not that complicated.
If it buzzes, you're going to know. Like, you know, if there's a bad connection, you'll know. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, that's it. Like, that's the only indicator. But if there's like some
things will happen though. Like there will be some problems in cables, and I've only come across this one time. But so if you have like 2 cables, right, you're doing a stereo signal. There was one cable where, so it's like tip ring sleeve, and I believe it was the tip and the ring were soldered opposite.
Hate it when that happens.
Which is wild, because like you plug those in and you're going to get insane phase cancellation. Like, what the hell? Which cable is bad? So you'd like take one out, put another one in, and depending on which way it's soldered, like, no, this cable's fine. And then you do it with another cable, like this is fine. And like, so then you have to get out your what is it called, that like measures impedance, right? And put like the little 2 things on each one and say, okay, and put it on the next one on the other end of the cable. And
well, we don't want to drive our listeners crazy. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just simple.
For the deep dive, yeah. Sometimes radio stations go through unshielded cables. That's a thing.
Yeah, no doubt. So, all right. Well, hey, here's to better mixes. Here's to better sounding songs. And we wish you the best of luck with your tracks.
Don't and let us know what type of gear you guys have, what kind of speakers you might recommend for other people to get starting out, and headphones. And let's geek out about some gears that have helped you and maybe not helped you along the way.
Absolutely.
7506.
All right. DT 770s. 250.
My man. All right. Well, I guess we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Later. Peace. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, please subscribe to the Signs of Life and John Audio channels on YouTube. The link for our channels is down below in the description and in the show notes. For the video version of this show, please subscribe to the Harmonic Horizons YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest episodes. For bonus content, including additional podcast material, head over to the Signs of Life Patreon page. Paid members get access to Beyond the Horizon, our new series of extended conversations with our guests, as well as several other benefits such as early access to all of his videos, exclusive ambient tutorials, over 100 preset packs for various synthesizers, one-on-one coaching for ambient and electronic music, and tons more. If you'd like to support John Audio and the work he does, head over to his YouTube channel and subscribe. You can also check out his Gumroad page for a selection of free and paid preset packs. Finally, he has a Patreon page where subscribers get access to additional content, such as exclusive music, presets for various synths such as Pigments and Diva, specialized courses, and more. Harmonic Horizons is hosted on Buzzsprout and is now available on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast directories. If you'd like to reach out to us or would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact us at harmonichorizonspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.